So I know not all of you have followed my story and my journey from being a Democrat for 20 years to leaving the Democratic Party after I went to a Trump rally and becoming an independent to now on the verge of becoming a Republican. It's going to happen at some point. It's just no big hurry to do it right now. There's just no reason to rush right out and do it, but I'm going to do it. But I know that a lot of you haven't necessarily followed my story from the beginning. And so I just want to do a quick backup to bring everyone up to speed. What got me started on this journey? A lot of people think I changed my mind after going to a Trump rally, and that was like the final straw, but it was not the reason that I changed my mind. What actually happened was about 6 months prior to that Trump rally, I started challenging myself to listen to voices who I thought I would disagree with, and the pure purpose of this exercise, it started in mid 2019, I believe. Yeah, mid 2019. The pure purpose of this is I wanted to understand why people voted for Donald Trump. I wanted to understand what they saw in this guy that I was convinced was a racist and a Nazi and all the bad words, and I could not understand why people voted for him. And my contention at that point was that if we didn't understand why people voted for him, we were not going to beat him because I wanted the Democratic Party to win. I was very much vote blue no matter who. So I started this journey of listening to voices who I thought I would disagree with an open mind. I really did. I wasn't trying to convince anyone. I really wanted to understand what people saw in this person. And because I entered into the conversation with an open mind, I was able to eventually change my mind, because there essentially are two different types of mindsets that you can have. You can have a very fixed mindset where everything is just the way it is and it's very hard, it's a very rigid mindset to be able to change. Your worldview is pretty solidified and there ain't a whole heck of a lot that's going to change it when you have a fixed mindset. Whereas some people have a much more flexible mindset. They can understand the perspectives of other people. They can look at the world in different ways. One of the things that I think has really benefited from, that I have really benefited from in this journey, is being a psychologist and being a person that actively, one of the primary things that I did was teach people how to communicate with people who have different work styles, different communication styles, teach them what that looks like and what that means for interpersonal relationships. And I think that really benefited me in this whole journey, because for me, it is a very natural thing to understand that different people just have different perceptions of the world. And it's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. It is simply different. Well, many people on the left do not understand that at all. And so when I saw this op-ed from the New York Times, I reached out to Trump supporters, they said, I tried. I give up. When I saw the title of this op-ed, I knew this was not a good faith effort to understand Trump supporters or to come to unity with Trump supporters. This is absolutely absurd. People on the left have not engaged in this exercise. In fact, I have a discussion group where I was really trying to bring together people of different viewpoints so they could discuss and try to understand each other. And you know what I found over and over and over and over again is people on the left joined the discussion group saying they wanted to have productive dialogue with people on the right. And then as soon as people on the right did not instantly agree with them, they would get pissed off and say, there's just no point to this. No one's listening to logic. No one's listening to reason. And what was actually just happening is the left wasn't listening to the right. They weren't listening to their concerns. And they were trying to convince them to see the world in their way. And because they weren't listening, there was no back and forth. There was no good faith effort to understand. The person on the left almost always ended up leaving the group in a huff, because these people just can't be reasoned with because they don't agree with me. And so as soon as I saw this article, I was like, I'm going to tell you what happened here. This person tried to convince people on the right to agree with him. He tried to convince them that Trump is a horrible, evil person, and then he was shocked when people didn't instantly say, oh, you know what, you're right, I am misguided. I'm going to change my entire worldview to see things your way. And I was right. And I'm going to show you that. And we're going to read this article and I'm going to point out all the reasons why this guy did not make a good faith effort to actually talk to Trump supporters. And we're going to have a good time. It's a really fun op-ed to make fun of. Thank you, New York Times, for giving us this glorious gift. But before we get into that, folks, I'm going to ask for your help, because I'm not going to lie, I've been stuck at 100,000 subscribers for almost a month now because every single night, like clockwork, YouTube unsubscribes 100 to 200 people from my channel. Every single night, it happens all at once. It is not a gradual thing. I have caught them doing it like 3 or 4 times where it's just all of a sudden, boom, hundreds of people get dropped from my account. They're also cordoning off my content only to people who are subscribed to me. So it's like a twofold strategy. And I am not the only channel this is happening to. It's happening to like a whole F ton of them right now. So I'm not special in this regard, but I do need your help. If you want to stick it to YouTube and also get daily content around news, politics, culture, whatever I feel like talking about, go ahead and click that little red subscribe button below, or if you think you're subscribed, just do a double check for me. I really appreciate it. All right, let's read this article. 73 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. He doubled down on all his worst vices, and he was rewarded for it with 10 million more votes than he received in 2016. Now, an intelligent person at this point would ask, why did 10 million more people vote for him if he is just about hateful rhetoric and hate and white supremacy and misogyny? Why would he get 10 million more votes? That's what should be asked, but of course that's not what's going to be asked. The majority of people of color rejected his cruelty and vulgarity, while he doesn't mention that Donald Trump got the highest vote of people of minority populations, people of color, of any Republican candidate in 60 years, since 1960. So he did pretty good. Also got double the LGBT vote he did in 2016. Never mentioned that. But along with others who voted for Joe Biden, we are now being lectured by a chorus of voices, including Pete Buttigieg and Ian Bremmer, to reach out to Trump supporters and empathize with their pain. And this is also one of the most condescending things ever. Listen, dude, we're not in pain. We still think we got a pretty good shot, because just because you guys have called the election does not mean we actually think it's over. And now my position on this is I'm in the middle. I don't know what I don't know. I am not taking a side. I think it could very well go either way. And I'm really trying to manage my expectations in this regard, but I ain't in pain, dude, and I don't need you to empathize with me. If you want to listen to my perspective, that's one thing, and especially listen to the perspective of someone who was on the left for 20 years and then decided to vote for Donald Trump. I am more than happy to talk about it, but you're not making a good faith effort to listen. This is the same advice that was given to Mr. Trump's 2016 victory, and for nearly 4 years, I attempted to take it. Believe me, it's not worth it. He's saying it's not worth it to even try to talk to Trump supporters because they're subpar human beings who won't listen to his clearly superior mind. He literally says this. Well, not those exact words, but he pretty much says that facetious thing that I just said. The Quran asks Muslims to respond to disagreements and arguments in a better way and to repel evil with good. I tried. You might not like me, and I might not like you, but we share the same real estate. So here's me reaching across the aisle, American to American, I said in a video message to Trump supporters published the day after the election. I really thought it might work. Growing up, I often talked about my Islamic faith with my non-Muslim friends, and I like to think that might have helped to inoculate them to some of the Islamophobic propaganda and conspiracy theories that later became popular. So I assumed I could win over some Trump voters whose frustrations and grievances have been manipulated by those intent on seeing people like me as invaders and on replacing them. Dude, I hate to break it to you, most Trump supporters don't give two flips that you're a Muslim. They really, really don't. Now, at the same point, you have to stop giving a flip that they're Christians. I'm not a Christian. I don't subscribe to any major of the three faiths, but like, you need to stop hounding them and trying to take their religion away from them too. Freedom of religion means you get to practice whatever religion you choose, you know, as long as you're not hurting anyone else or stealing other people's stuff. It's all good, man. They don't really care. So in late 2016, I told my speaking agency to book me for events in states where Mr. Trump won. I wanted to talk to the people the media calls real Americans from the heartland, which is of course America's synonym for white people. Mr. Trump's most fervent base. Over the next 4 years, I gave more than a dozen talks to universities, companies, and a variety of faith-based communities. All right, I have kind of a side note tangent on this. I had a speaking agency. I have since fired them because they really didn't like I got into all this Trump stuff, but whatever. We parted ways. It was all good. But I had a speaking agency for a while. And, you know, I'm going to tell you this. If you're only doing a dozen talks over 4 years, then There's something wrong with your speaking agency, dude. There really is. That like a dozen talks in red states over 4 years is not actually that much. And also, how condescending is it that this guy was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to those red states and I'm gonna convince those Trump supporters to see things my way. He made the sacrifice, like, yes, please send me to the red states. Please sacrifice me on the altar of Donald Trump so I can bridge the divide in America. Like, how condescending is that? That's crazy. But again, we're working off a dozen speeches here over 4 years in red states. That's not really that many, dude. I gave sometimes, there were months that I gave a dozen speeches in a dozen different states over the course of months, let alone 4 years, please. My standard speech was how to build a multicultural coalition of the willing. My message was that diverse communities, including white Trump supporters, could work together to create a future where all of our children would have an equal shot at the American dream. I assured audiences I was not their enemy. Dude, they never thought you were their enemy in the first place. You think you're their enemy. They never thought that. The right does not believe that the left is their enemy. That only is about what the left believes about the right. I was just on Adam Kriegler's show right before filming this video. I'm going to be posting the video the morning after I was on his show, so you can go watch the recording. But we even talked about this on the show. Adam said, and this is something you hear all the time, the left thinks the right is evil. The right thinks the left is misinformed. It is a fundamentally different worldview. They don't view you as their enemy. I reminded them that those who are now considered white, such as Irish Catholics, Eastern European Jews, Greeks, Italians, were once the boogeyman. I warned them that supporting white nationalism and Mr. Trump in particular would be self-destructive, an act of self-immolation that would neither help their families or America become great again. And here we have the problem. Here we can already see where this is going. He did not talk to these people. He tried to convince them. And then he convinced himself that that is what a conversation looks like. But he goes on to say, and I listened. He didn't really. Like keep in mind, when I read you the next 2 paragraphs, you're gonna see exactly how much he did not listen. Those in the audience who supported Mr. Trump came up to me and assured me they weren't racist. They often said they enjoyed the talk, if not my politics. Still, no one told me they wavered in their support of him. What he was looking for is to convince people. And he didn't convince people, so he's like, I'm taking my toys and going home. Instead, they repeated conspiracy theories and Fox News talking points about crooked Hillary. Others made comments like, you're a good, moderate Muslim. How come others aren't like you? I'm sorry, they didn't say that. I do not actually believe that anyone really said that at all. Maybe I can maybe fudge a little bit and say maybe like one really stupid extremist person, but that's not something that someone on the right would generally say. In Ohio, I spent 90 minutes on a drive to the airport with a retired Trump supporter. We were cordial to each other, we made jokes, and we shared stories about our families. But neither of us changed our outlook. Dude, that's not what happens when you're listening. When you are listening, you are not trying to convince someone to see the world your way. And if you are trying to convince someone, if your only focus is on convincing someone else to do things your way or see things your way or take on your perspective or agree with you, then you're not really trying to listen to understand why they see the world the way they do. They'll never take my guns, ever, he told me, explaining that his Facebook feed was filled with articles about how Mrs. Clinton and Democrats would kill the Second Amendment and steal his guns. Although he didn't like some of Mr. Trump's tone and comments, he did believe he was a racist in his heart. He didn't believe. Oh my God, I took on leftist for a second. He didn't believe he was a racist in his heart. I'm not a cardiologist, so I wasn't qualified to challenge that, okay. How passive-aggressive and petty. In 2017, I was invited by the Aspen Institute, which hosts a festival known for attracting the wealthy and powerful, to discuss racism in America. At a private dinner after the event, I was introduced to a donor who I learned was a Trump supporter. As soon as I said white privilege, she began shooting me passive-aggressive quips about the virtues of meritocracy and hard work. So you mean to tell me that a wealthy business owner who has probably worked hard their entire life believes that people can be successful if they work hard? I am shocked by this revelation that someone who has worked their way up to whatever position they happen to be in thinks people should have to work hard. And this is the fundamental thing. Dude, probably this person has probably been called a racist and a Nazi and all sorts of words. That is why people bristle at the term white privilege. That is why, because they're insulted over and over and over and over and over again for their beliefs, and you're insulting them for thinking that people should be able to work hard to get ahead. That is literally what the American dream is, dude. She recommended I read Hillbilly Eulogy, the best-selling book that has been criticized by those living in Appalachia as glorified poverty porn promoting simplistic stereotypes about a diverse region. Okay, so whatever. I'm not even going to make a comment about that book. I haven't read it. I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. I've even tried and failed to have productive conversations with Muslims who voted for Mr. Trump. Some love him for the tax cuts. Others only listen to Fox News, say both sides are the same, or believe he hasn't bombed Muslim countries, parentheses, they're wrong. Hint, hint, dude, Obama bombed them too. Yeah, he did. Many believe that they are good immigrants as they chase whiteness and run away as they chase whiteness? Dude, I didn't even see that the first time I read this article. I'm going to read that again because that is an absurd line. Many, we're talking about conversations with Muslims now, many believe they are good immigrants as they chase whiteness and run away from blackness all the way to the suburbs. That sentence by itself is an incredibly racist sentence. You're saying that Muslim immigrants to the United States that don't agree with you are chasing whiteness? Dude, that's incredibly racist. I can't make people realize they have black and brown skin and will never be accepted as white. They're not trying to be accepted as white. They're probably just trying to live their lives, dude. Oh my God. And he wonders why Trump supporters don't agree with him. Trump supporters don't take skin color into consideration. It's not that they don't see it. I'm not going to say colorblind because that's a stupid word, but it's not something they take into consideration when they're evaluating the content of someone's character. The left right now is evaluating people based on the color of their skin or their gender or their sexual orientation or their gender identity or any number of things. The right does not do that. And if you actually listen to them, you would understand this. They don't judge people based on immutable characteristics. They judge people based on the content of their character and what they're contributing. It is simply a different set of values. And if you are making an honest assessment, an honest, good faith effort to understand why people voted for Trump and to connect with those evil Trump supporters, then you would absolutely know that because it is clear as day to anyone who actually takes the time to flipping listen. I did my part. What was my reward? Listening to Mr. Trump's base chant, "Send her back," in reference to Representative Ilhan Omar, a black Muslim woman who came to America as a refugee and became a congresswoman. I saw the Republican Party transform the McCloskeys into victims, even though the wealthy St. Louis couple illegally brandished firearms against peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters. Peaceful protesters who literally broke down the gate right outside of their multi-million-dollar mansion that they had spent years redoing after weeks of watching those same protesters burn down cities. See, this context is lost on people on the left. They really don't understand why a couple that obviously is well off, has created a beautiful home for themselves, has watched on the news as the protesters have literally burnt cities to the ground, and you wonder why they might be concerned when Black Lives Matter protesters break down a gate outside their house. Are you kidding me? Bella Costi was rewarded with a primetime slot at the Republican National Convention where they warned about the chaos in the suburbs being invaded by people of color. No, they didn't say people of color, dude. It wasn't about the color of their skin. Their speech would have fit in well in Birth of the Nation. He just called them racist. Okay. And you wonder why you can't connect with them if you go into every conversation thinking that someone who disagrees with you is a racist. We cannot help people who refuse to help themselves. Mr. Trump is an extension of their id, their culture, their values, their greed. He is the defender and savior. He is their blunt instrument. He is their destructive drug of choice. Don't waste your time reaching out to Trump voters as I did. Instead, invest your time organizing in your community, registering new voters, and supporting candidates who reflect progressive values that lift up everyone, not just those who wear MAGA hats in local state elections. Work also to protect Americans against lies and conspiracy theories turned out by right-wing media and the political ecosystem. Of course, he's classifying everyone as right-wing media that is not probably like the New York Times and Huffington Post. One step would be to continue pressuring social media giants like Twitter and Facebook to deplatform hate mongers such as Steve Bannon and censor disinformation. It's not enough, but it's a start. Okay, so you're telling me you're making a good faith effort to connect with Trump supporters, and then you're like, let's throw all of them off social media and banish them forever with no path ever to redemption so we can take over the social media spaces and only have it for people who think like us. Or you can just watch The Queen's Gambit on Netflix while downing your favorite pint of ice cream and call it a day. Just as in 2016, I don't need Trump supporters to be humiliated to feel great again. I want them to have health insurance, decent paying jobs, and security for their families. I do not want them to suffer. But I also refuse to spend any more time trying to understand and help the architects of my oppression. His oppression, his oppression. He is so oppressed that he's literally writing an op-ed in the New York flipping Times. I will move forward along with the majority who want progress, equality, and justice for all Americans. If Trump supporters decide they want the same, they can always reach out to me. They know where to find me. Ahead of them. See, I told you at the beginning that he literally saw himself as superior, and he ends the article with saying that he's ahead of Trump supporters. Well, this is an absurd piece. Dude made no good faith effort to reach out. And listen, it is hard to reach out to people you disagree with. It is hard to try to open your mind when you see the world a certain way. So I have to say, I completely understand why it might not always work out, because for me, changing my mind was a month-long process. It was something I did every single day. This was I challenged myself to do this every single day. And it was a months-long process. It did not just happen after going to a Trump rally. And this guy obviously hasn't gone into the situation in a good faith effort with an open mind, with the idea that sometimes people just have different views of the world, and that's okay. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this video. Now, if you enjoyed it, then I want to just plug my Locals community, because on YouTube, you're probably getting like 1 billion ads in these videos, but Locals is my community that you can join for free, where I post every single one of my videos ad-free, so you don't have to deal with those ads. The information is literally right below me. It's kb.locals.com. You can also, if you want to sign up to be a supporter, which starts at $5 a month, and if you want to give more, you can, but $5 a month membership really helps me out. You get to participate in discussions, you get exclusive Locals-only supporter videos, you also get to participate in Zoom calls with me, you're going to get to do our book club, you're going to get to do our debate club, all sorts of awesome things that we do in our community. I love Locals. It's like social media for adults. I hope to see you there. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.